Well, to have that spirit in a very good person that wouldn't harm a fly is just excellent.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And I'm the same. I really am. To have that spirit in a person that wouldn't harm a fly, that's exactly who I am. So, for some reason, everyone's been piling on my Facebook today and making comments about my photograph, my picture.
Oh, yeah, well, it gets people thinking about something that I've talked about for years. And, of course, what you're trying to do is you're trying to teach them that there is a firm basis for believing in mind as a field, and that sets up the most atheistic hardliner. And I don't blame people for being atheists. I don't. But I want to offer them a suggestion that there is more than mortal existence, whether they believe in God or not, because part of our duty here at this time is to relieve suffering. And in the mind of these people, how much greater a suffering can there be than to think I'm giving it all up? If mind exists separately from the brain as a field, then you have established that it could have its own immortality. And what people talk about is near-death experience. Spiritual experience is more than a dream or a delusion, but has grounds in something which we appreciate too when our expectation matches our possibilities. You want to teach children that hope is one thing, but the power of their expectation when they realize a full range of possibility can manifest wonderful things. If they have no expectation, then during their life they are going to be doomed to a mediocrity of thought, and they will not have the enrichment that mind develops over time by looking higher than what comes down the road. What their teachers in school who are not permitted to exceed the syllabus. The hardest thing to get across to a child is to teach them that their education is highly limited and you will supplement it, and not at the same time cost the teacher that they're spending all this time with their respect. Well,
there's no money to go anywhere.
Getting anywhere today, there's always at least that 10% political thing. It's part and parcel of it.
What, kissing up to teachers?
No. Just if you keep your nose clean, the teachers are going to kiss up to you. Nobody loves a reformed rebel more than a teacher.
No, say that again. Nobody loves a reformed rebel more than
a teacher.
Nobody loves a reformed rebel more than a teacher. I think you should just done them all in your last year.
Yeah, we've given him something to think about.
Yeah.
Well, we do not want to cramp his style. We just want to give him something to think about. Tell him that.
He says, we don't want to cramp your style, we just want to give you something to think about. Oh, well, okay, we're not cramping his style. And he probably won't think about it.
He's going to have a hard time being political.
Yeah, he's going to have a hard time doing anything because he just doesn't want to do anything that conforms to what they consider society's ways of living, and neither do I, and neither do many people. And do you know what? I don't blame him, but it's really, really difficult though, because like he goes to school and the society at school is still very much sort of how everybody else thinks it, and no one has an expanded consciousness of these things. And then he comes home and he hears all this weird and wonderful stuff and hears about people like you, and it must be really, really difficult to try and be a 15-year-old kid and live in the two worlds, even more so than me, because I don't have to conform to anybody's expected standards of behaviour at all, whereas he does.
Yeah. Well, ask him if he knows what a nihilist is.
You know what a nihilist is? Not really, no.
Look the word up.
Go and look it up.
That's what he's becoming.
Yeah, that's what you're becoming.
A nihilist.
You're becoming a nihilist. Explain it to me and I'll briefly explain it to him.
Nihilist has no regard for authority.
A nihilist has no regard for authority. That's me.
It's Cameron.
Yep.
Yeah, but for the sake of being able to prosper among devotees to authority, one must be slightly more subtle.
For the sake I so didn't get that. Hold on, I'm telling myself.
Everything in your society is governed by bureaucrats. Their self-worth is based on what little degree of authority they have over subordinates and those that are in the province of their influence, right? Now, if the entirety of a bureaucrat's self-image is based upon influencing you with their authority, you're going to get immediately crossways with them when you show that you are not in any way affected by their authority. So what you've built for yourself is a conflict. Now, the best thing to do is to learn how to say things in tongue-in-cheek that people at that intellectual level don't comprehend, and make a skill of it, and it's very self-satisfying because you're mastering them at their own game and they have no idea what you're doing. So they never put you in their crosshairs because they can make life very difficult for you, regardless of whether they have a right to or not, just simply by shuffling a bunch of paper around with your name on it.
Uh-huh.
That's my lesson for today.
Okay.
Now go out and have fun.
I do want to have fun.
The whole idea is that you can be a nihilist, but you better be a secret nihilist.
Yeah.
I got to go out and do some errands, and one thing and another, but don't be alarmed about the prophesied earthquake on the West Coast today.
Right, nothing's going to happen then.
Well, that was a plant.
Yeah.
And it was a dead giveaway when she started this crap about run for the mountains but leave your guns behind.
Oh, yeah, I bet. Yeah, I thought, absolutely.
And it's like I said, you know, the only reason that haven't already got us where they want us is because Americans have guns. That's why there is a possibility that they'll tear the continent up.
God damn, I can't believe they would actually do that.
I think they already tried with the New Madrid fault, but it's more stable than they thought.
Oh, really?
Now, there is a gentleman who goes with that asphalt volcano thing in the Gulf who claims that there is a massive salt dome that goes up under the continent, that the whole design of what BP did in the Gulf was to break the foot of the New Madrid fault there in the Gulf, and then create a opening in that salt dome for seawater and oil to get into to start eroding it. Now, what's interesting about that is that two things go along. I know there's a massive salt dome. Now, I don't know how massive it is, but there are people that know because when they do these underground nuclear detonations with the P&S wave, these are sound waves. They can determine the substance that those sound waves are going through in their dimensions. And by that, they can determine what is rock, what is a salt dome, because the speed of sound wave through them varies.
Yeah.
So they get a pretty good idea if that's true. But what bothers me is, what gives this guy some credibility is that the earlier maps that the New World Order put out 20 years ago, showing how they wanted to sculpt the continent, match what is now being put out by these people that are taking these leaps. So that's not a good sign.
No, it's not.
Now, I know that they're not taking this from the 20-year-old stuff because the 20-year-old stuff just wasn't shared that broadly. But if that's true, let's face it, they can kick off San Andreas Fault in a heartbeat. They can cause exactly the sculpting on the West Coast. It's on that map that shows what's left of California, how far a new inland sea comes in. They call it a bay, but it's an inland sea.
It is. I've seen how far it goes in.
And they can cause that. What people don't realize is that at the time of Columbus, the Salton Sea which almost matches that. It still had, it was declining in the volume of water it had, but it still had water in it, and they could navigate from coming in from Bahia, California. They could navigate up into the Salton Sea, and there's Spanish galleons wrecked in there.
Why did you ask Charles to move? I mean, where he lives is such a dangerous place.
Well, the reason that I did is because they've already staged something that would enable them to start rounding people up. When there is going to be a tremor, or let's say a major earthquake on the West Coast, it'll be like this. Right now, there is a continuation stress line which goes across the continent. Until there is a separation, which would probably be along the San Andreas Fault, the continent is riding on, the plates are riding on something that is like jello. And what happens is if you have the whole edge of the continent peeling off and it goes into the ocean, what's going to happen is Florida, which is the least secure of the remaining part of the continent, it's like the tail of a dog. It's going to feel that whiplash. And Florida, in effect, will, since it is right on a, let's say, unsecure shelf or a plate tectonic, what'll happen is it'll dip down and come back up, and there will be tidal waves going over that peninsula. I mean, that'll happen. When that happens in California, when the big one hits, that sets the shoreline of California, which is high. All along the California coast, there are beaches, but these beaches go down from foothills. Almost all of the seaboard of Florida is high up. It's kind of like your cliffs of Dover in some places even. You look at San Francisco. San Francisco is built higher. It's on an elevation. Sausalito is on an elevation, and there would have to be one hell of an impact for the tidal wave to come in over it unless it peels off. Now, it'll peel off if a big one hits in that shift. There's discontinuity there now. In other words, major movement at one time which shifted both sides of the San Andreas Fault, and what happens is another shift, and that'll go back in reverse. It won't stop.
No.
It'll be like a total dislocation becoming a separation.
So Florida will literally just sink.
No, Florida won't sink, but they'll lose coastline. In California, I would say 30 miles back or more.
Jesus.
Just fall into the ocean. They know that. And it'll go all the way up to Washington State.
Yeah. And I presume that the consequence of that would be massive tidal waves.
There'll be tidal waves, yeah. It's just like if you have somebody that's working out on a high line and they've got one of those raised platforms that they're on, and that attaches to a vehicle. But they're up there on that high line. They're 60 feet above the ground. A little Volkswagen can come along and hit the back of that truck, and that truck is a 7 or 8 ton truck, and that Volkswagen isn't 1 ton. And it hits the back of that truck. What's going to happen to that guy up there on top of that raised platform? He's going to go flying through the air, almost the equal amount of force that that little Volkswagen hit that truck with.
Yeah, because it will reverberate through, won't it?
Well, that's what Florida will do.
Right.
Because the continent hasn't split in the middle.
So it didn't work. So they tried to do the New Madrid fault line, and it just didn't work. It's obviously far too stable. So they've given up on that. They've given up on that plan.
They built that up. Here is what I say over and over again. If something like this gets promoted, like this little girl, if that gets promoted, it's getting promoted because the powers that be are getting involved. You know as well as I do, things are said and things are shown every day on Facebook and in the media that don't get there, that don't get promoted, that are far more elegant, far more far-reaching, far more significant than a little girl that has a vision. And guesses do come true, don't they?
Well, yeah, they do.
Well, this is a case of a plant. They picked it up and ran with it because it worked into their scheme of things.
Quite.
All kinds of little girls out there having these visions. Why did that get out in the first place before it happened? And then when it happened, why was it given so much attention when it could have been nothing but a lucky guess?
Well, I think it was a lucky guess, completely and utterly.
I'm sure. Well, I think that it was, I don't even think that. I think that it was staged, the whole thing, because they were ready to run with it, weren't they? It didn't take any time at all.
No, it didn't. It didn't take it any time at all. So maybe they're going to do the San Andreas fault line then. Oh, Jesus. Mind you, I've just two separate stories. I'm watching California because something's going off over there. I've seen another massive landslide again today. That whole western seaboard is just not stable. It's moving.
Well, the thing about California is this. California is due a major uplift anyway. If there wasn't HAARP, it's due that. People that live out there are living on a hope and a prayer. You know, it may not happen without HAARP. It may not happen for 30 years. You know, it could happen tomorrow. It could happen 30 years from now. It's going to happen within a lifetime, more than likely.
Well, if they can push it, they will do.
Well, they can do it. They can goddamn well do it. Let me tell you. And there are people that are predicting. There is a gentleman who does know what he's doing, who doesn't make vision predictions, that did predict it would happen in March. That predicted it would happen between the 26th and the 31st.
I can't remember his name. What was his name?
Dingle. But he may be right. Now, this little girl, I mean, if he predicts it, that's something to it. She comes out and says the same thing after he's got his prediction out there, and the only difference is she names the 31st. Big deal. It's already halfway through his prediction.
Yeah, I don't normally pay any attention to stuff like that whatsoever.
Well, nobody else does. That's why it's promoted. And this is what I say over and over again. If something is promoted, whether it's a person or something that person has said is promoted like this without grounds, or with much less grounds than things that do come out that have something to have confidence in, like the seismologist, this little girl's bullshit was promoted more than him. And he hit the nail on the head with the earthquake that occurred in San Francisco during the World Series there, back in '89. I mean, this is so evident.
See, we know they're instigating something. They're stirring the pot with something, with a big bloody spoon as well, because I know people are hearing ringing in their ears, or even almost like a buzzing tone in their ears. I know people are feeling a little bit sick, a little bit disorientated. I mean, I've got a stinking headache this afternoon.
Well, you're getting radiation. You're getting a lot more radiation, and that'll do it. People don't realize. You tell them, God damn it, you're getting radiation, and they say, oh, well, you know.
Yeah, Heather said that when she came out of school. She said, is it all right to breathe? I said, well, we don't really have a choice, Heather.
You don't need to be going outside unless you're taking the potassium iodide.
No, she is taking her. She is. Yeah, she is.
There is coming a time when you go further with your precautions and your practices. When you take more potassium iodide, not too much, but you wash your clothes, you wear something on your hair, you go out of the way. And the sooner you start doing that, the better, because, look, this is accumulative. You may get enough of that in you to start reacting now, but the time will come when you will get too much to live.
Why is it I have the ability to put probabilities towards an inevitability with everything else except for what is going on in my own life? Why is it?
Welcome to the human race. Everybody among your species have that problem. It's the blight of emotional relationships. It's the blight of parental blindness. It's the blight of unchecked emotion. It's the blight of the overindulgent parents. It's the blight of the mother that'll protect a son who's a serial killer. It's the blight on and on and on. It's typical. You want to know, why can't you be objective when it comes to your home life? You can't be objective when it comes to your home life because the emotional involvement. You can't be used through these impulsions. You have to eventually get to a point where you're in control. It's something like this. I know women are capable of this just like men. You get in a situation, one false move for you, and it's over. You cool down. You're looking around at what you can use as a weapon, where the doors are, and where the corner is you can get into to fight them off. And it's just all instinct. So cool down and do what nature gave you every right to do, and that is be ruthless in your own defense. You see, that's what you have to do. It is war. It is war. You think in terms of what you can do to get to your objective. What do you do when you're under assault? You draw in. You narrow the possibilities for the enemy, and you maintain the options for yourself. And that's what you do. You draw in. You draw in. And we know that we do what we can outside and beyond our immediate circumstance. And I don't have to worry about my immediate circumstance too much. And I really don't. I just want to maintain maximum effect as much as possible. Yeah.
What knows? All of a sudden I've started sneezing again for some reason.
Well, just realize that you could already be feeling the effects of radiation poisoning.
Yeah, I suspected that actually.
You could already be feeling it. And one of the things that I've noticed is that there is an abnormal amount of radiation coming out of locations near these reactors that are...
I have as well.
Yeah.
Remember you showed me that map last night? When that map first went up, there were only 6, 7, 8, less than a dozen places on the map that were showing radiation readings. When you showed me the map last night, and bear in mind I've not looked at it since 4 days after the earthquake. When you showed me that map last night, they've added another 20 at least.
Good.
And the radiation readings were much, much higher along the west coast, specifically up near Canada, up near what is it, Washington State? My geography of your country is atrocious. They were much, much higher than they were before. But there were so many more monitoring stations that were giving readouts, which is why I was like, whoa.
Well, then you take LA, for instance. If the information that I got is correct, they had just incredible rain, and they had a front that was stationary, just heaving rain on LA.
Yeah.
So what I think happened is that they had some way of devising for a large amount of fallout to be at higher altitudes, and it caught in with that stationary front. So it's there. It's frozen there too, and the rain's carrying that down, which would explain why the readings they're taking for LA are atmospheric. That would be low, and it is, because the radiation's on the ground there.
That storm that's been over Florida, if you actually watched all the videos for that, that is definitely an unnatural storm.
The question there is, are they preparing Florida for some kind of biohazard thing so they can start using, for some reason, those UN vehicles that were there. Are they still there? Have you?
So.
God almighty, they're going to use them for something. They wouldn't be there if they weren't going to use them for something.
I think they were going to use them before, but they didn't, for whatever reason. But they're still there, as far as I know. I'll do some research, I'll find out, okay? But as far as I can tell, those UN vehicles are all still piled up over there. Which is exceedingly concerning, considering we now have good friends that live down there.
Well, I can think of a number of reasons why they would pick on Florida.
Why?
A lot of wealthy people that have money and institutions have retired down there.
Down in Florida Keys.
What was the basis for the Holocaust?
Money.
Yep.
Always, always money.
And it's their own kind that do it to them. We're talking about monsters doing it to their parents.
Kind, yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah. Who else would know that they would have that kind of money? And
their children in their bank accounts. Yeah, I can see it now.
This is what the Holocaust was all about. Where did these people have all their money?
In the bank.
They had them in Swiss banks. Who owned the Swiss banks? International bankers. And who were they? Jews.
Yeah.
For the most part, Jews.
Yeah, I know.
They did it to their own people.
So all these rich Illuminati parents that live down in Florida and have retired.
Well, not necessarily Illuminati, but Jewish.
Just, right.
Jewish. Florida was a favorite retirement place for Jewish people. Elderly Jewish people.
I didn't know that.
They have communities down there. They have communities that the police have for their retirements that are only police. They have communities where Jewish people, elderly Jewish people, only. But the fact of the matter is, these people have money.
Yeah, and it's tied up in the banks. And all you'd need to do is scrub them off the land in Florida. Just completely scrub them all off the land and then access their bank accounts and take all their money.
Well, they're relatives. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Who are scum,
Who are also part of... Yeah.
I mean, that's one consideration. There are many more. They know that in their sculpting designs and their schemes that Florida will go. You look at that map, there is no Florida.
If you look at the geological history of Florida, it's been wider, it's been a lot thinner, so it regularly changes shape and size.
Well, it would be stable if they weren't doing the sculpting.
Sculpting? Explain it. Sculpting.
What does a sculptor do?
Carves bits off.
That's right.
So they're sculpting the west coast.
Sculpting the whole continent.
Well, yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, they're not going to know the exact time and date that it may go down. And there's always a possibility it may not happen at all. But eventually it will. By natural causes, because there's been too much movement along the San Andreas Fault for it not to slide back and sever.
The whole Ring of Fire, what they did in Japan has to have affected the other side. There's got to be some kind of balance. There has to be a balancing out, so the only logical solution is that the other side will balance it out. If you do something to one side, the complete opposite side, which is LA, will go sooner rather than later. Yeah.
If the Continental Divide does not give when California goes, when the 30 miles deep into the state, from Washington State all the way down to Mexico, and when that goes, if there isn't give at the Continental Divide, then Florida is just going to be the tail of the dog wagging.
That doesn't even bear thinking about. There are so many people that live down there. I was looking at the size of Florida in comparison to the United Kingdom with England. If you take from the middle of the Wash across to South Wales, across the middle of Wales, and go upwards and encompass all the way up to the north of Scotland, that's the size of Florida.
Yeah.
That's a lot of land. That's a lot.
But it's stable if nothing major happens elsewhere, but it's not stable if it does. I think that they know if there's a salt dome that immense underneath 5 states. This is so immense, and they know that if that's what they've done in the Gulf of Mexico, if that's what BP was doing, shit.
Yeah, shit, with a capital S.
Yeah, we don't know. You seen the EPA thing on strontium?
No.
And it says strontium-90 is the most important radioactive isotope in the environment. Although strontium-89 can be found in and around reactors, and strontium-85 is used in industry and medicine. And strontium-90 is the most lethal. That's what I meant. I added the last sentence. Strontium-90 is the most lethal. It is.
So strontium-90, that is the worst. And is that in the atmosphere now?
Yeah, sure it is.
Sure.
It's what causes leukemia. Of course, you've heard about the Monox fuel, and sometimes they'll say that it's in reactor 3, sometimes they'll say that it's in reactor 2, sometimes they'll say it's in reactor 4. But one of those reactors has Monox fuel, and that's 20,000 times worse than the usual fuel they use in these reactors to use war-grade plutonium.
Jesus Christ.
You don't realize how insane they are.
Is it them, or is it the Zionists that are controlling them? I mean, they've got their fingers in everything, James.
Yeah.
It's not the Japanese people.
It's their land, though. They're responsible. They're the ones that have the regulations. They're the ones that make the decisions.
Yeah.
They're the ones that run these things.
Yeah, they're held over a barrel. We're all held
Yeah.
over a barrel.
Well, that's because the people that we have imbued with the authority to do something about this have abnegated it. It's just like when they built a plant near me, 50 miles away from me. They knew that they weren't living up to the codes, that they weren't living up to regulations, that they had cracks in the concrete. Instead of repairing them and doing anything about it, they just give their whistleblowers better jobs.
You think we'll ever get rid of them?
Yeah.
The new world
but
order.
it has. Oh yeah, you can do it.
But what would it take?
You just vigilance is
Yeah,
what it takes.
I know.
Vigilance is what you haven't had on this planet for so long. It isn't funny.
But vigilance in what form? I mean, man, we do all this work, we put it on Facebook, we notify people. It doesn't seem to be doing anything.
When you get the power, you keep it. You don't relegate it to bureaucrats. You don't relegate it to judges. You maintain it. And you chop people's heads off whenever they betray their oath. So you've got everybody in government in my country who's betrayed their oath to the Constitution. Hang them.
Yeah, but who's going to hang them? It's all very good and well saying hang them, but who's going to hang them?
When you have the opportunity, you do it. The opportunity has been had in the past, and people, oh, well, you don't want to do anything like that. You'll be just like them.
When the crunch comes and the turtle's head comes out, we need to chop it off, literally.
It all became what it is today because people allowed the laws to be selectively enforced. They did not stand up for people whenever they fought to keep a fair and level playing ground between big business and the public and the consumers. And they allowed things to erode. They allowed federal encroachment of states' rights. They allowed centralization to betrayed antitrust laws and monopolies. They let public education have no more meaning than a babysitting service for their kids and didn't care. They let on and on and on. This hasn't been one thing. It's been a whole conspiracy of everything.
But it's so huge. I mean, really, I don't want to sound defeatist because I'm not.
If you understand your limitations, then you can compensate for them. But when you don't and you don't accept the reality of those limitations, you can't. And one of them is the split consciousness. And that is the main intrusion that the powers that be have had access to prevent people from doing and exercising the process of indulging their own interest. I mean, if you want to get rid of drugs or you want to decriminalize drugs and get rid of drug criminals, you have to decide what to do and then do it. And then when you have a corrupt judge that reveals himself by a ruling, you take him down and hang him. You do things like that. If the Indians can do it, you can do it.
I think we've become a world full of nonsense.
The thing is, when you get something rolling, Fidel Castro did it. Fidel Castro got rid of the corruption in his government, and the people liked it enough that he didn't have to have a bodyguard when he walked among them. And you know what? The CIA and organized crime couldn't do a thing about it, could they?
No, they couldn't. And Castro's still going strong. He's so cool. I love the way he comes on TV and says, The American government are all corrupt bastards. The New World Order.
They are.
They are.
They
That's
are.
just it. They are. Gets my tits. It's like, why won't people listen to him?
Because
No,
they own opinion. They don't own their own mind. It has been a process that's been ongoing in this way for 50 years. When Rupert Murdoch took over a bigger chunk of the news media than he had a right to, he should have been stopped and imprisoned. When people let him get away with that, they should have been hung. When Hillary Clinton went to the UN to try to undermine our laws, she should have been hung. That's what you do. That's what you do.
Who's we? We the people?
We the people.
Well, in that case, the laws need to change because we the people don't have any say whatsoever.
The laws don't need to be changed. They need to be equitably, non-selectively enforced. We know that Obama should be impeached. Even the most conservative liberals are discussing that right now. But nobody's got the guts to start that action in Congress. So what do? You say, you son of a bitch, you are my congressman. I will start action against you.
That's a good point, actually. See, I think a lot of people now are aware of what's going on, but they're at a loss as to know how to affect it on their own level. There's enough people that have woken up around the world that are more than aware of exactly what is going on. Who's doing it, why, where, for, whatever. But what they need now is direction as to how to make or affect a change for the better. Because it won't take just one person. It will take each individual person who brought the truth to light to begin with in order then to take that one step further and say, okay, this is what we can do now. Now we have this information. Then we move forward and we do X, Y, Z.
It doesn't take many people to start something, to start a movement that catches on, because it's just like in the song. They decided the shotgun sings a song. Well, God damn it, we've been there now for 25 years. Well, you don't have to have new laws. You need to have less.
Less laws, which
you
are more
need to have the laws enforced non-selectively on everybody, and if you will use the laws that are on the books, you can hang most of these politicians. You can hang them.
Literally.
They have betrayed their oath of office. That's treason. Hang them.
Well, that would stop people from doing it in the future, wouldn't it? I think you'd probably get to the fifth person and people would go, whoa, these guys mean business. Let's spill the beans. You wouldn't need to do all of them. You wouldn't.
No.
You take the ringleaders out.
After you have got somewhere, then you take them and you put them out of power on a conditional basis, and you say, if we ever catch you working with any of these people that you have been involved in to overthrow the constitutional government of our country, you're dead.
Yeah, they must be watched.
You're dead. Look, they want to kill us. They want to come, and if we're on the list, they shoot us in our yards. That's what they want to do. When we give these people an opportunity to survive, when by all rights we should hang them, one infraction at all. One infraction at all. Whoever goes out to take care of the matter shoots them on sight. You see, these are the steps that you take, and you're within the law. What you're doing is exercising constitutional law, and the only social contract we people in the United States have with this government is the Constitution. When they abnegate the Constitution or betray it, the social contract is over. They cannot arrest us and charge us with any crimes. What is our protestation? What are our actions for? Our actions are along in accordance with the social contract we have they've broken. They are the criminals, not us. And when people start realizing that, it's a lot easier to act against them, isn't it?
It will be. Nobody's angry enough.
They should have been angry since 1963. Should have taken to the street, and when those witnesses started dying, they could have stopped it. What's the message? The message is, well, we need to get this behind us and go on like it never happened. So this is where that led. Right here is where that led.
No.
And I could have predicted it. 1963, and I was a kid in 1963. I wasn't 20 years old. Or barely. And I knew what was going to happen when they started spouting off that, well, we need to get this behind us. In other words, do nothing about it.
Exactly, yeah. Just sweep it under the carpet. Let's move on so that nobody actually questions it.
Absolutely.
Usual, yeah.
And they're doing it today. Every time anything comes up that is in any way demonstrating how massive the corruption is, and the murders and the killings that, and this sorry creature in the office of president in this country, this sorry creature. I mean, this thing hasn't got a soul. I mean, this is more Eby-like than Eby's.
Yeah, do you know what? Oh, it's funny you should say that. I looked at a picture of him the other day and I thought the same thing. I just thought...
Obama is an example of how they finally managed to create something with a brain that has no sentience.
Yeah.
That has no soul. Obama is a monster.
He is.
He's a monster.
He is complicit.
He is an absolute monster. I think that's one of Charlie Sheen's problems, is that he couldn't believe it. The hope is that we can change it. That's the hope.
Yeah, I'll change it.
That is the only hope worth having.
It is. That we will change this.
If we don't change it, there's nothing worth our time here anymore.
No.
And that's what I'm waiting for everyone that is conscionable to decide for themselves, and then I'll put an end to it all.
The question is, how far do we go? How far do we let it go before we just say, pull the plug, it's not working?
Well, that is the head of the turtle.
Yeah.
Now, that's not the head of the turtle of the White Hats or Faction 2 or whatever, but that's mine. And, you think you're outraged. Imagine how I feel.
I know how you feel. I spent the last year listening to it. And I am outraged. Do you know why I'm outraged? I'm outraged because I still have all these dreams. I still have all these dreams that I want to do.
Well, that's the greatest outrage of all, to know what you could do, to know what's possible.
I want to come to the States. I want to travel the States. I want to bring my kids. I want to show them places that will just awe-inspire them. I want to see Bryce's Canyon. I want to see the Grand Canyon. I want to see places where I just go, wow, and just think, these are the birthrights of all humanity. Absolutely. I want to lie under the stars where I see so many stars that it blows my mind. I want to do these things. And I object really, really strongly to being kept in a system whereby it isn't possible. I want my kids to be able to do it. I want them to take off like I did. Go where they want. Go travel. Go see. Go do what you want. Go live your life. Really live it.
Well, I can't tell you what's going to happen next, because there are possibilities.
I know.
In fact, there's a good possibility it may happen in California, but that little girl, or supposed little girl, is not on to anything. She's a mouthpiece for the manipulators. That's all.
Nothing happened, so when she comes back, no one will listen to it. In fact, the very fact that nothing's happened today...
Well, it still could here, but that's not the point. The point is that a seismologist predicted it, and had grounds for predicting it. And something is going on, definitely, because if you will read the lady that had the interview with Alfred
Weber-Lemont,
if you will listen to her, and she gave another interview, and she says it's war. She's very frank about she's taking a leap here.
I need to see.
And she could be right. The outcome can go so many different ways, and I know that it's what I tried to say whenever I made that comment to Brian in his moment of despair, and that is that you don't worry about the future. They can turn what they decide to do on a dime.
I know they do.
They change it. I've seen them do it. Here's what I wrote to Brian. As long as there is the slightest chance the apparent might be a false perception to those with incredulity, split consciousness, and padded comfort zone centering occurs. That is the reason for false prophets that are promoted and design what will be knowingly unfulfilled, so that the cycle of arrest and alarm keeps this process of incredulity charged. Remember the little girl? Remember her convenient admonition about no guns and to disperse to the mountains, posing no threat to the military as they round up the general populace for death camps? The powers that be are squeezing all out of this all they can before they implement. Don't even discuss the future. They can turn that on a dime. Discuss the evil they have done and its obvious focus. Leave the woo-woo to arrowheads with the delusion they can stop bullets. So this woo-woo crap, I mean, you know what these bastards are up to. You know that H.A.A.R.P is responsible for the earthquake. And you know that the woo-wooers are spending it for all that it's worth. They are a problem.
I know they are.
They are a problem.
Dude.
All right. Okay, my dear. I'll talk to you later, and
Okay.
be of good faith.